Welcome to Earth Archives. I wonder if you've ever thought about why, when it comes to UFO aliens, despite the lack of clear evidence, the description is always of the little green men, with spherical heads and oversized eyes. When did this start? Today we're going to talk about this issue. Before the show starts, please subscribe to the show, subscribe and share, and if you could leave a comment, that would be even better. Alright, let's start the show. If you ask this question to UFO enthusiasts, they usually point to the night of August 21, 1955, when the large Sutton family arrived at the Hopkinsville Police Department in southwestern Kentucky, out of breath. Their terrifying story of being besieged by unknown creatures that night became one of the most detailed and puzzling descriptions of close encounters with aliens in history, most notably with nearly a dozen witnesses, several hours of encounter time, and sometimes only a few feet between the witnesses and the creatures. The incident quickly became news in the region and even nationwide. The incident took place on the Sutton farm in Kelly, Kentucky, where the family lived in an unpainted three-room house without modern amenities such as running water, telephone, radio, television, or books. Among all the details they described, including the landing of unidentified flying objects and the appearance of small alien creatures, one fact in the event is true. When the 8 adults and 3 children of the family arrived at the nearby Hopkinsville Police Department around 11 p.m., the group showed a deep-seated fear. This family wouldn't normally turn to the police for help, Police Chief Russell Greenwell later told investigators. What they did was reach for their guns to defend themselves. But they came to the police for help, and even the women and children showed signs of hysteria, with one man's pulse rate as high as 140 beats per minute. In the police's oral history report, around 7 p.m. on a hot Sunday night, the Sutton family's friend Billy Ray Taylor was drawing water from the well in the backyard. At this time, Billy saw a silver object, very bright, emitting light of all colors. As Billy later recalled, the object flew quietly towards the house, stopped in the air behind Billy, and then dropped straight to the ground, but the Sutton family did not take the 21-year-old Billy's eyewitness account seriously. But an hour later, the constant barking of the dog woke up Lucky and Billy. The two men who went to the back door found strange lights, and in the lights, they found a small humanoid creature. The creature was about 3.5 feet tall, with a huge head, almost perfectly round, arms almost reaching the ground, hands with claws, huge eyes flashing a pale yellow light. The creature emitted a strange glow under the crescent moon, as if it was made of silver metal. The two were terrified and grabbed a 20-gauge shotgun and a .22 rifle and fired. When the creature walked towards the back door, its hand was raised as if it was being pointed at by a gun, and then the creature performed a flip, stood up and disappeared into the darkness. Later, these people saw a similar creature appear at the side window of the house, so they fired through the window screen, but the creature disappeared again without being hit. Mrs. Langford of the Sutton family told Isabel Davis, "When I saw someone approaching the door, I went into the hallway and squatted next to Billy." Isabel Davis is the author of a detailed report titled, Close Encounters of Kelly and Others in 1955. It looked like a 5-gallon gas can, with a head on top, small legs, and a shiny metal, just like my refrigerator. When Billy walked under the overhanging roof outside, something unexpected happened. The people behind him saw a claw-like hand reaching down to touch Billy's hair. The group screamed and pulled Billy back. Lucky fired upwards, and then fired at another similar creature in a nearby tree, but the creature floated to the ground and then darted into the woods. The Sutton couple hurried inside and listened to the sounds outside for the next few hours, mostly hearing occasional scraping sounds on the roof. At 11 p.m., they ran to the garage and drove to the Hopkinsville Police Department as fast as they could. After the local police chief requested assistance, there was state police, military police from nearby Fort Campbell, and a team of photographers from Kentucky New Era. The investigators found shell casings from the shooting there, but no other evidence, and they couldn't find any evidence of the family's drinking. According to Mrs. Sutton, drinking is not allowed in the farmhouse. But when the police and others left, these unidentified creatures came back between 2:30 a.m. and dawn. Mrs. Langford said she saw a creature constantly glowing at the window by the bed, its claw-like hand on the screen. The day after the incident, police investigators returned to the farm, hoping to find evidence of a flying saucer landing, footprints, blood, or scratches on the roof, but they found nothing. Local radio station employee Bud Ledwith interviewed the adult witnesses of the family and drew pictures based on their descriptions. According to Davis, despite the fact that these people were away from the farmhouse all day and unable to cooperate with others, their extraordinary specificity and consistency left a deep impression on him. Although the incident eventually caught the attention of the Air Force's Unidentified Flying Object Investigation Project Blue Book, the documents show that the team never formally pursued the matter. Other than verifying with the Fort Campbell colleagues who briefly appeared on the scene the first night, there was no other contact. UFO logist Isabel Davis conducted the most thorough investigation of the incident in 1956, and the results were published decades later by the Center for UFO Studies, founded by astronomer and Project Blue Book civilian investigator Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Her nearly 200-page report, co-written with Ted Blurker, includes detailed maps, drawings, documentary records, summaries of similar accounts from around the world, and interviews with several members of the Sutton family and police investigators. Davis summed up the latter's concerns about the lack of physical evidence. In her view, all possible explanations including deliberate hoaxes, publicity stunts, and mass hallucinations make no sense. While people questioned whether these young people were exaggerating, speculation was that it might be due to hiding alcohol reserves, but Davis's strong impression after meeting Mrs. Langford was of a melancholy, serious matriarch who hated being the center of attention and had no reason to lie. Davis further pointed out that none of the witnesses made absurd allegations. In 2006, Joe Nickel, a senior research fellow of the International Committee for Skeptical Inquiry and self-proclaimed investigator of supernatural phenomena, reviewed the evidence in an article titled, Little Green Men, the 1955 Kentucky Incident. He questioned the testimony of what he called Billy Ray Taylor, matching Taylor's UFO sighting with similar reports that day, indicating that there was a small meteor nearby. As for the small unidentified creatures, Joe Nickel proposed an explanation used for other alien encounter stories, owls. In particular, the great horned owl has long wings that could be mistaken for arms, as well as claws, yellow eyes, long ears, and a round head, all of which could fit the description of the unidentified creature. Joe Nickel suggested that the metallic sheen was likely a reflection of moonlight. Returning to the incident, in the days that followed, radio stations and newspapers, including the New York Times, reported on the event, and hundreds of curious people flocked to the farm, mocking the Sutton family for their ignorance or fraud. When "no trespassing" signs failed to deter them, the family chose to charge admission, 50 cents to enter the site, $1 for information, and $10 for photos. Subsequently, skeptics attacked the Sutton family as allegorical seekers of wealth. As the story spread around the world, the number of small creatures increased to a dozen or more. A few years later, these metallic little men were conflated with a report from a woman in eastern Kentucky about a flying saucer and a 6-foot-tall man in green, indirectly giving rise to the myth of the little green alien. Do you think the Sutton Farm incident was a case of mass hysteria involving 12 people, or was it caused by some factor that led to emotional breakdown? Or was it some kind of planned behavior? We welcome your views. See you in the next episode.